Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 7th West Fargo City Commission meeting. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, everyone. Next is the approve the order of the agenda. I have one addition, and that is, we'll do it after number 11, is discussion on a temporary bond for Sheyenne Street financing. That's the only change that I have. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, approve the minutes of the April 16th meeting.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Building permits. Any questions on the building permits? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do you hear a motion on the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to the regular agenda, 5:30, first reading and public hearing on the rezoning of Harper's Heights, first edition. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This application was first introduced to the Commission last fall. The proposed development would remove the existing RV park known as D's Court and replace it with a 30-unit, 4-story apartment building. The project did receive low-income housing tax credits from the state. There's a small correction to the staff report that there would actually be 6 one-bedroom units and 24 two-bedroom units. The ground floor of the building is proposed as enclosed parking, however, is designed to appear like a ground floor level and not a parking garage. Updates from the previous meetings are that the applicant has abandoned its request to vacate a portion of Suchet Street due to neighborhood concerns. There's some people that use that street to get out. It's a one-way street. And so the developer has purchased this house here and is moving the building to the east a little bit to accommodate. This also alleviates any concerns from the school district regarding access to the Lidl Center. Staff is reviewing the proposed parking and determining needs and what will be provided to address parking concerns from adjacent property owners. These 2 items, staff believes, will address all concerns related to the development, as the neighbors have been otherwise really supportive of the plan. Staff is still working with the applicant to work out some details of the proposed site plan, as noted in the staff report. Tonight, public hearing is scheduled, and staff is recommending a first reading be held on the proposed zoning change. The application has been approved by Planning Commission, and the applicant hopes to get this moving along quickly after this to have final consideration at the June 4th City Commission meeting. With that, representatives of the applicant are here to answer any questions you might have, and I'm available as well.
Any questions of Tim before I open the public hearing? Any questions of Tim? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Mr. Toomey.
Good evening. For the developer, we are moving forward with the project. Very excited. We have an investor to purchase the tax credits. We're working on the partnership agreement for that. We would expect to be back on the June 4th meeting after purchasing the land, and we'll close our partnership by the end of June, and we hope Terry Welly, our general contractor, will start construction in July. That means this will come online next June or July, about a year later.
Mhm.
It's, we've been working very closely with staff to work out the little things that are left, but it's going to be, we think, a wonderful development in that area, cleaning up a real eyesore, and the city will be very happy with it when it's done.
Did you, I know you gave the people living there quite a bit of time to move out. Wasn't it 6 months, a year, or?
It was 6 months now, and that's still with the owner of the property. Just a historical note, if you'd like, Dees Court actually stands for Doris Day Court.
Really?
Interest, you know. The owner is Joanne Gilbertson, and we worked it out so that the people had 6 months notice.
Yeah.
There are some statutory requirements relating to trailer courts, and Joanne has her own attorney working with her on to make sure everything was done properly and the people were given sufficient notice. And we'll still continue to work with her to the extent she needs additional help.
Any other questions of Mr. Toomey? If not, is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? One more time, is there any other public comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the City Commission. Again, this is first reading for the rezoning.
Make a motion, put it on first reading.
Second. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item 2, again, first reading and public hearing for rezoning from COP Commercial Office Park to C Light Commercial. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This rezoning request is requested to accommodate development of a veterinary clinic, which is not provided for within the currently zoned office park district. The property was zoned office park at the time to comply with the city's 2007 land use plan. The new proposed comp plan would not require a land use plan amendment. With the new comp plan, the proposed change would be consistent with city plans and ordinances. It's expected for the request to not be approved finally until another meeting when that comp plan would be in play. At their April 9th meeting, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and reviewed the application and are hereby forwarding the recommendation for approval.
Any questions to Tim before we open the public hearing? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? One more time, is there any public comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back. Again, this is first reading for the rezoning. Any questions of Tim? Or do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to put it on first reading.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item 3, 5:30, first reading and public hearing on the zoning ordinance amendments to section 4-0407.4C. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the request of the city's forestry committee, we're proposing a text amendment to remove the requirements of a tree planting plan along 13th Avenue corridor. Simply something within our ordinance that refers to the 13th Avenue tree planting plan. Removing this requirement allows greater flexibility for the forestry department and developers along the corridor to provide more successful plantings. It's also planned to develop a new aesthetic plan along 13th in coordination with the upcoming project going on right now. At their April 9th meeting, Planning Commission held a public hearing and reviewed the application and are hereby forwarding the recommendation for approval.
Any questions to Tim before I open the public hearing? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? One more time, is there any public comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the City Commission. Any questions of Tim? Again, just so we make it clear, it is a recommendation by the Forestry Committee.
Yeah, we received a letter from Chad Vander that was directed by the Forestry Committee. If you recall, on the corridor overlay within 13th, now we require site plan review and approval by Planning Commission and City Commission, so I think we're covered. There'll be a appropriate plan. The last plan was done in 1986, and there's a lot of species in there that are no longer successful.
Any questions of Tim? If not, do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item 5:30 public hearing again regarding revisions to the truck zone route on Sheyenne Street. John.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, pursuant to the city ordinances, the city commission is required to have a public hearing when making a decision to change and reestablish a truck route. The major change is removing a portion of Sheyenne Street from Main Avenue to 13th from the truck route. There's some other changes that have been reviewed and set forth in the new roadways and the classifications. There is also several maps attached to the resolution, one indicating where the new truck, or the existing and the new truck routes would be. It's approximately 4 or 5 pages in on the maps. The maps were produced by Chris Brungard and Public Works. So I can certainly answer any questions about the resolution, but it's really straightforward. I don't know if anybody from Public Works is here regarding the actual classification of the road, but we're required to have a public hearing on the matter.
Just to clarify, we did have some meetings, public meetings, to talk to the people.
We did. Okay. I think we pretty much got it worked out with all of them, didn't we, Dustin? We did actually with all of them that we had meetings with. So,
good. Is there any other questions of John?
Just a question for Dustin. What's the difference between Class 1 and 3? Class 1, I assume, is large trucks, the heavier weight, and Class 3 is just a smaller truck?
Absolutely, yep. The difference in the classes is simply the load limits that the street can handle. So a Class 1 road is typically going to be our concrete streets that are capable of handling a heavier traffic, and a Class 3 street is more in common with a local residential street. So,
any other questions before I open the public hearing? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment?
I have a question if I may ask it.
Frank? You can always ask a question.
Thank you. The changing of the ordinance, it's not going to jeopardize delivery to all the development, the places that we're developing on Cheyenne Street right now are going to require development, deliveries from some kind of
to my knowledge, Frank, no. If their deliveries are within this area, they can still go on these roads.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect delivery trucks, the supply trucks, or any of the, it doesn't even affect the people that are delivering to the construction sites, say on Cheyenne Street. Doesn't affect them.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? One more time, any other public comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the City Commission. Any questions of John or Dustin?
Not, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second it.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item 5, the 5:30 public hearing to add a Renaissance Zone block. Callie.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm obviously not Matt Marshall, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Callie Ross. I'm the Economic Development Specialist here at City. This item is regarding a Renaissance Zone block addition and project we have received. Okay. If approved tonight, this will be the 32nd block in our Renaissance Zone. West Fargo is allotted 39 total blocks from the state, so we will still have 7 additional blocks for future projects. We are requesting the entire block to be added, as shown in the map here, which highlights the proposed area as well as all existing blocks. This will house a trucking and logistics company, which will relocate from Fargo. The business currently employs 21 people, but they're hoping to add more employees with the expansion in West Fargo. The Renaissance application is only for Phase 1, which includes an office and shop space located on the west side of the property. Phase 2 is intended as a future project and is not a part of this specific application. It is currently 12 parcels, but it is currently getting replatted to be less than that. Phase one is estimated at $1,096,000. The yearly tax abatement for that will be $15,581 over 5 years for a total abatement of $77,906. And just a reminder, that is, the abatement is only for the additional value. They will continue to pay taxes on current value of their property. This just shows a site plan of the office and shop space associated with phase one of the project. This shows phase two. The intent is to lease part of this out, but they may end up just using the entire space depending on the growth of their business. These are just renderings showing the 2 buildings involved with phase one, and the rest of these are just aerial drawings of the buildings as well, just to give you an idea. The Economic Development Advisory Committee has seen both the project and the block addition and recommend approval. We are asking for a public hearing to add the block and a separate motion if you choose to approve the project. Matt and I are available for questions, and we also do have a representative from the business if you would like to speak with her as well.
Okay, first item we'll discuss is adding the Renaissance Zone block. And any questions of Callie before I open the public hearing? Again, this is just to add the block first. If not, I'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? One more time, is there any public comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the City Commission. Any comments, questions of Callie?
Are you referring just to the block or the actual program now?
Just the block. Adding the block to the Renaissance Zone. That's the first vote.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Do I hear a motion?
Make that motion. Or
second, whatever.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we'll go on to the application for Helverson's addition.
Kelly knows, and Matt, is this something that has to go through the school? And the county, this does not, this project?
Nope, this just has to go through the city here.
This is just the city, okay.
Yep.
Any questions of Callie?
Make a motion to approve?
second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
We got by really quick, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Item 7, second reading of ordinance number 1114, ingesting a controlled substance. John.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission. This is the second reading of an ordinance creating a penalty for the ingestion of a controlled substance. So if a person is adding a controlled substance to food or somehow inhales it or ingests it, then it is a Class B misdemeanor. It's the same as the first reading. There was no changes in between, and this is matching up one of our ordinance to state law so that the police department can enforce it and use our municipal court system.
Any questions to John? Again, this is second reading.
John, would you, not to go a long time, but fill me in again of what the process or what the purpose of this was? I forgot.
We didn't have a similar provision within our ordinances for the enforcement of this. And
it's for the law enforcement side of things, right? Okay.
Correct. It was requested by the police department.
Okay.
Any other questions to John?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 8, review the bid tab for Storm Improvement District number 4065. Dustin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission. A couple weeks ago, we opened bids for the storm improvements at Gateway West, which is the site where the Hornbachers building will be going up. Going to recommend awarding the contract to Dirt Dynamics for their bid of $356,879.50, which was pretty significantly under our engineer's estimate, but we went through the bids and it all makes sense. We were just a little conservative on our estimate, and the market was good for this type of work. It's mostly dirt work, along with the lift station. So we're comfortable moving forward with their dynamics.
Any questions of Dustin?
Have we used them before?
Yes, yep. Typically as a subcontractor, but we have had them 2 years ago as a general contractor. So.
Any questions of Dustin? If not, do I hear a motion to approve or not?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 9, Burlington Drive pond concerns. Mr. Jupick.
I don't know if you guys recall, last year I was here to talk about the same pond. I live in Burlington Addition. We have the retention pond. Last year we came in to address the fountain and to beautify the city as is. It's kind of interesting. The gentleman before me is asking for to build a building complex to beautify the city, yet we're kind of neglecting what's already there. So recently we had an issue with a fish died out on a pond, and we were trying to get it cleaned up. I understand there were some calls to the city and people unhappy, but the water is low, the pond is dirty, and the fish died out. So it's still there. It smells awful. You know, it's a good location in the city, close to all the upscale restaurants and hotels, yet we're neglecting it. So we want to see what can be done. Last year we asked about fountain to be fixed. I know the cost of the fountain was an issue, so we went back and forth to see what it would cost to reinstall the fountain to beautify there. We would also ask that the levels of water be raised for at least 10 feet. I'm not sure what the city requirements for that is, but there's over 25 feet of exposed rock right now, and it keeps going down every day, seems like it. And, you know, the cleanup of the fish, I understand the mayor mentioned that the city is not inclined to fix it anymore if the fish dies out. This is the second time it happened. It happened about 2 years ago, I believe. The city was very good to come in and clean it up. Same thing happened this year. The ice was on for too long, and there's a lot of fish in the pond. All the dead fish is still there. It smells. We can't even use the lots that to go back with the kids. I have 2 young kids. They like to go down. A few other people have kids as well. So I want to see what can we do to move forward to get this fixed. I understand the cost was a big deal, and all the ponds in the city were in the same issue, but we really would like to get this taken care of. If the city is not willing to take care of it, then we need to move forward to see what else can we do to make it right before the city walks away from it.
Are the dead fish in the water, or are they on the property line?
They're washing out. They're just floating around, and they're usually the wind kind of washes them down by our yard. We live in the east side of the pond.
So are they on your yard, though? You're saying are they?
They're on the rocks. They're down floating in the water on the rocks. Yeah. So the portion of that is the park district, and I understand the park would be responsible to clean up, but it's all come down. So we got to figure out what do we do from here. We really want that fountain fixed as well. It was a nice sight to see.
Isn't that, Dustin? Isn't that actually they call it a pond, but isn't that a retaining pond at the end of the day? Is this is actually a retaining pond, right?
Yes, Mr. Simmons, it is a stormwater retention pond. So its sole purpose is to store water when we get high rain events. All the houses along the pond, each homeowner owns about 10 feet into the water. Is where the property line is. So all of the rock around the pond, at least behind the houses, are private property. The portion that's along 19th Avenue, that is a portion that's within the Park District's property, so I think they maintain the north side of the lake. We've had this issue come up in other lakes over the years that I've recalled, and it's one of the reasons why we plat ponds so that a homeowner owns into the water, is so that the city isn't going to be on the hook for all the maintenance. But these things kind of come up, and
so are you saying you can't, or you don't want to go clean up behind your house, or you don't want to clean it up, or what?
No, we can't. There was a massive amount of fish. I think 2 years ago, the city came in with a dumpster and the bobcats to take it out. There was a lot of fish. And they clean up this year too, but there's still quite a bit. And it's rotten. It smells.
Who stocks the fish?
I have no idea. I think people just bring them and dump them in.
Please,
Come up.
you need to come up here and give us your name and address, please.
Game and fish it?
But the pond, the biggest problem is the north side of it is owned by the park board, as he said, and Mr. Mattern was nice enough to call me back the other day, so I went out and I cleaned the one side of it up. There's some lots that are owned by Willie, he's a developer, and of course he didn't clean his up, and the city didn't clean theirs up, so you got like half the pond where you get all these dead fish. Of course, it just, all of us are smelling that.
I think the concern is the water is so low at this point. On the side of the park district, there's, I don't know the way for water to go out, but they're all exposed, all the pipes are exposed in the back. You can see it from the duck pond. There's a little duck park that was built, and you can see those drains when it gets really low. And right now, like I said, there's 25 feet of rock exposed and water just keeps flowing. So if the water is raised up, I think it would, the water wouldn't be as dirty, and possibly the fish will not die.
I don't know how, though, we would raise the water up. It's a retention pond. You have to remember that in the back of your mind, sir. It's a retention pond. It's there for a specific purpose.
Right, but we were
the fish and all the other stuff are just putting on the cake, so to speak.
No, I understand
We
that.
actually have a pump house on both sides where you can raise or lower.
We have that
Yep.
capacity,
Yep.
Dustin, where we could.
Yes, you do, Mr. Sen.
To raise the water, we would have to either get a water from a nearby hydrant. We would have to use the water source to fill it. We typically let nature fill these ponds. Once nature takes its course and we have enough rain and these ponds fill up, the lift station that's there is meant to draw it back down. So kind of like a sump pump in your house. Once it gets to a certain level, the lift station kicks on and pumps it back down to the appropriate level. We don't want to keep the water any higher than what it's meant to be at, because the higher we keep that water level, the less retention storage we have available.
That makes sense.
So,
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I knew that you could let it raise and then keep it at that level, but that
Right.
makes sense.
And the reason I'm asking these questions, because I'm not, as you're talking to us about your specific pond,
Right.
I'm thinking about all the ponds.
Right.
What we
Yeah.
do today for you will reflect upon what we do for them. So my number one question would be, I don't think we should be putting fish in there anymore, obviously, then. If the homeowners aren't willing to clean it when it does go down, we shouldn't be putting them in there. What's the point of
I
that?
don't know that we ever did. I mean,
Yeah, I don't-
I've never heard of that.
I don't
pond
think we
being
ever
stopped.
did.
Who
I'm
you mean, people
thinking-
just come
I
by and
think-
throw fish
They
in
would
there?
just keep
People
showing
have
up,
put
like,
them in.
died up.
There was, 10 years ago at least, 2,000 fish around the pond. City was in there in a day and cleaned it all up. They had 2 trash cans of trucks out there cleaning. And then it's 10 years later, same thing happens and nobody does anything. I call the park board, I call the city, and everybody says it's our responsibility. That's fine, we just didn't know that because the city, the first time, had cleaned it all up so nice. Once I was told that I had to clean my property up, I went right down and I cleaned my property up. But
Is there empty city lots over there, Dustin?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, is there
Is
any
there empty city lots?
not the city lots, they're owned by the Wayne Valley.
Yeah, there's a few empty lots there that are privately owned.
So
The
can we
city
get
does
ahold of
not-
Mr. Welly and have him come over and pick up his dead fish on his lots?
That's something that can be done.
I don't see why that's an issue.
Sir, Courtney needs your name for the record, please, if you don't mind.
Michael Sigurdson,
Thanks, Mike.
1970, yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I imagine the code enforcement office can certainly send a letter. I'm not sure what the code.
How about if we not send a letter and just pick up the phone and call the man?
Yes, yep.
And then see what he says, and then if we have to send a letter, then I guess we can do it that way, but I mean, because otherwise it'll be July. Okay, so to be a little more proactive, why don't we just pick up the phone and call the man and say, hey, we got dead fish, where I don't know where they came from, doesn't matter. As far as pumping water in there, you guys, that probably ain't gonna happen. I mean, there's just no way to do it.
When Mr. Madden, I talked to Mr. Madden the other day, he had said that the park board and the city kind of argue about who's responsible for actually cleaning that up. So I call the city, they say, no, it's park board. I call the park board, and they say it's no, the city.
So whose responsibility is it, you guys?
There's a loophole there, so we're trying to figure out who is responsible.
John, whose responsibility is it?
Well, I have to double check. I'm guessing the city probably actually owns the pond. My concern is how the fish got there, because I don't ever recall the city having dumped fish in there.
Sure we didn't.
I mean, if people are dumping fish in there, and it's a nuisance, and
Those are nuisance fish, I don't mean, look at them, that's not something Game and Fish have put in there, you guys.
What would it cost us, Justin, to send the city back over and clean up this last time to get it cleaned up? I mean, would it be a big deal, you guys, to get that done for water? I mean, it's gonna, labor, right? That's basically it.
Right, and it's not that the city hasn't done it before. You know, they clearly recall, I think last year or the year before, Public Works went out there, and it's a half a day or a day's worth of work. Send out a couple guys with trash cans, and they pick up the fish.
The park board, the city, you know, that's gonna take us forever to figure that out.
Yeah.
It could be.
On the north side of the pond, it's a park property, so technically, just like it's all the homeowners' property around it's the park's property on the north side, so I'm sure the response from the city was, look, it's either private property or it's park district property. It's not city property, so we won't maintain it, but that's where Public Works has gone out there and cleaned it up in the past.
That was the only question I had, is I kept getting back and forth, and even Mr. Matter said he wasn't sure.
Yeah. Tina, do you have any problems with that, if we just send a couple city guys over with the truck and clean it up? Is there any?
We can do that, but why don't we work out with parks? If it is their property and their stuff, then they should be doing the cleanup. I mean, seriously. We don't go out and mow their grass, and they don't mow our grass. I mean, what's the difference?
I think at the same time too, we should draft a letter, or Pierre should, that all the homeowners, Tina along there, I think we should draft a letter to all the homeowners as well as to the park that do not stock fish in the pond. And also, any dead fish, you know, will be the property owner's responsibility to clean up.
I agree. Totally.
So,
Are they done then?
here's the Burlington pond.
Were you satisfied with that answer?
Well, I suppose it's not, I don't think it's the
Kind of
issue is,
walked away.
I don't think the issue is us cleaning. We can go down and clean it. The city allows these ponds to be built, and it's not, you know, our pond is a retention pond. There are other ponds in the city that are not retention, and developers get these incentives to build it, but nobody takes care of it. Once the developer is done, they're done. We have this fountain, it was in the middle. Where's my house at? But right in the middle there's a fountain, and it was there. You had lights, you had everything. It stopped working. Now it's too expensive to fix. The plumbing, electrical is already there. Are we allowed to go in? Is the city responsible to go in? I think the issue became who owns the property and how do we make it. Guys, this is not a go-to location that you have to go and find it. People walk there. There's hotels around it, hospitals across the street. So if you go to the hospital levels, all the floors are looking down at the pond.
But that pump you're talking about, I recall the last time you were here, that is more of a cosmetic beautification. It is not required, so I don't think the city should be maintaining that. I mean,
no different than the one that's in Charleswood. If you go more up, there's a one in Charleswood. It's up and running constantly, and somebody's taking care of that one.
Do we maintain that one? Do we maintain the one in Charleswood?
I think according to what I remember Chris saying, it's functioning, but it's probably on its last leg or whatever. I know we've lost different pumps along the way. There's not as many of those floating pumps out there that there used to be. So the main fountain is still running, but
Did we put that pump in and all that stuff originally, or was that developer, or who did that?
Yes, the city put in these fountains as part of the improvement district, is my understanding. I can't speak specifically for Burlington's fountain, but I know Charleswood fountain was put in underneath the improvement district, and that fountain is maintained by the city. Now, what I think Chris brought forward to the commission previously was, as these fountains stop working, instead of spending the cost to repair them and fix them, we're going to abandon them.
And the residents are fighting that. That's the truth. And you can laugh, but, we all pay taxes.
No, I'm not laughing at you.
I go into school. I've never even been to the West Fargo school, but I pay $4,000 every year to that school.
I'm not
All I'm asking is that you put a little darn fountain in my pond, and can I get any response from everybody? No, we don't want to keep our city beautiful. We just want them to be whole.
I'm not laughing at you, Mike. I'm laughing at the fact that we're the ones that put it in, and then all of a sudden we're deciding now when they go away, when they go bad, that we're just going to abandon them. I don't understand that line of thinking, I guess. Go ahead, Tina.
Commissioner Hanson and Committee Commissioners, one of the reasons is that when those were put in, they were special assessed to all the benefiting property owners. The only way to that we could think of to try and repair these was to assess it to the benefiting property owners, so that we're not using general fund tax dollars for a pond over here, or a pond over there, or a pond over there for an aesthetic feature. So that was the kind of the reasoning that started it when it was starting to get really expensive. Where do you want to spend your dollars, your tax dollars? If you want them spent to refurbish ponds, and that's the directive you give, we're more than happy to spend those dollars doing that. But just know that there's going to be people in other places that are going to say, I don't want to pay for that pond. It's not my pond.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
We're okay with specials. We've all agreed on stuff. We just want them kept up. We're okay paying for that stuff.
Well, then let's just do that. Let's just.
Well, I have a question. Why were these put in first place?
Before my time.
I don't think any of us are angry either. We're just,
no, we're not here to fight.
We keep getting back and forth, and we're just not understanding, you know. So
my question is,
sometimes they're not coming out right.
If they're put to beautify the city, to bring us in, we came in and they're like, too bad for you, we're out. I mean, you can't neglect.
That's kind of how we feel, actually.
We can't neglect what's already the infrastructure that's here, where we're going to improve in other parts. It's quite unfortunate the building he is asking for a tax break because he wants to beautify the city, but we can't fix what's already there.
We could certainly, if the homeowners around the lake are interested in having the pump fixed, we could certainly accept a petition of the landowners to replace the pump and have it specially assessed against the parcel.
I think the letter came out, it was $8,000 just to fix what's now, and $75,000 to install the permanent, like the one in Charleswood. I think it's a little bit ridiculous, the numbers are thrown out there. If that's the case,
Try to find it cheaper if you can, but here's the point that I'm going to make. What Tina said, as a citizen, I'm not going to pay for your pump so you can look out your beautiful window and look at the water. Sorry, but I'm not going to do it. I live in the city too.
Right.
I'm not going to pay for yours. I don't have one in front of my house.
I do. So, I understand, sir, but I was.
How many parks do you have around your house, Mr. Simmons?
Okay, hold it.
Totally. Yeah,
parks
and schools are different.
Paying for those parks.
Let's come on. Let's be civil here, guys.
No, yeah, but that was not with all the respect. But I was assessed for a special on a street that's 3 miles away from the house that I hardly ever use. So I can go argue with that, but that's not. We don't want to fight. We're not here to fight. We just want to see what can we do. If this is left like this, what's going to happen 5 years from now? It's going to be awful. It's going to smell. It's going to be dirty. People are there, take their families. They take the dogs for walks. I mean, we got to do something about it. And I understand there's other ponds, but if the city agrees to put these to beautify or to bring people in to buy it, to give incentives, that's fine, but we have to take care of it. We can't just neglect and leave it as is.
How about this? How about if Dustin goes and finds out how much the pump is or how much it is to repair it, he gets back to you, gentlemen, and then you guys can decide if you want to pay for the special assessments. Does that sound fair?
Are we allowed to, as you mentioned, can we shop around too and see what we get?
Sure, absolutely.
They say it's $4,000, we don't get away from it. But would that be strictly our cost, or will the city cover some cost too?
I would probably special assessed, I'm assuming, to you,
and
the homeowners.
The one important thing you have to remember too, it's not just the parts, it's also the maintenance and having somebody go in and do the labor, because they have to drain the pond out, get out there.
So
and there might be electrical failures, there might be piping failures, so there can be a lot of extra costs involved in when you look at it.
I think they mentioned that the fountain itself, the parts, the company, whatever, the parts are not available anymore. So, but which is fine. But I think not just that. I think we need to address it. How do we keep it clean? How do we keep it? Bluemont Lake is nice and clean and blue. Ours is like green and it's a swamp.
When you do the assessments, I think we're taking a lot of time, probably. Right. Yeah. But when you do the assessments, is the park board responsible for that part of the? Are they assessed for that, or is it just all spread to the?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
They would have to agree to it too.
Okay.
A certain number that disagree, 25%, then it's kicked out.
And Mr. Welly would have to agree on his lots too. Okay, thank you guys for.
I just want to add one thing. I do think we have some obligation. We approve these developments with these ponds, and even if we do just agree on the maintenance of it to some degree, but I think we have to be reasonable on the city side too. We just can't abandon them. To me, that's like abandoning a road that we determine is just for a business, and they have to, we've got to have some regard. We approved it with these developers. We wanted nice developments, That's why we allowed them to go in. And I think out of respect to the people that live there and live in these neighborhoods, we owe it to them.
Well, I'm not sure Dustin, what was the reason that the city paid for them anyway? I would think that should have been under the developer and then part of their association fees. Why would the city, why did we ever?
I'm speculating here, but it was probably done at the request of the developer, and the city probably actually didn't. All of it was specially assessed out to the lots. I don't think the city contributed any general fund dollars to it. It was just the assessment, the homeowners were assessed.
So then why do you say that we put them in, the city put them in?
The city's contractors
installed them, or contracted, but it was still at the request of the developer, so shouldn't he be responsible?
None of these developers are long gone.
Well, this particular one is.
We approved it and accepted the responsibility, so I think we need to figure out a good.
I'm not debating that. I mean, I'm okay with that.
And that's the only reason we're here, is exactly what he just said. That's the only reason.
Are we still doing that? In other developments?
No, we're not.
So what we did a couple of years ago when Harley Davidson and All Finished Concrete, when that development came in, we decided to allow a fountain to be put in, but we had an agreement with the development and the developer that they would put it in at their own cost and they would maintain it at their own cost. They would hook up the electrical service for the pumps or hooked up to their private electrical service. I mean, that's the other costs that are incurred with these. But yes, we have gotten a little more sophisticated on putting the responsibility of maintaining the aesthetic features of the ponds back into the developer, whether it's through a homeowners association or, just tied to that developer. But in the case of All Finished Concrete, they are maintaining that in that location.
How many do we have out there that have these kind of pumping system? You know?
The only one that's still actively working, I believe, is Charleswood. There were 3 or 4 that had fountains in them, and the fountains have been slowly failing. And
none of those people complain. What I'm saying is, if we fix one, we're going to have to fix them all.
Yeah, fish.
Yeah.
More should be left to the owners. If they don't want to fix it, that's their thing. We're here because we want to work with the city to fix it. We're not just, I understand it's, the city's cost too, but we're not saying, okay, you guys need to fix it. We want to work with the city to see what we can do, because my goal is I want to live there. I'm not just in and out. So I want to stay there. My kids go down, they enjoy it, and that's why I bought it there. And like I said, if we can make it look like a Blue Mountain Lakes, I would love to, because then it's nice and clean. That's the way I see it.
Well, Dustin will get some, and you guys can shop around for prices too. And talk to Tina or Dustin, and we'll see what we can work out. Does that sound fair?
I think so.
Okay.
And then instead of going to specials, which I understand my costs with the attorneys and stuff, if the price is reasonable that we can all agree with, I think the owners, we can just pay for it. And I think one option was that we can fix it. If we can split between, the Park District and us, we just pay it up forward, get it fixed, and then we go from there. The question was, who's going to maintain it from now on? Who's going to keep coming back in and redoing it? I think it was brought up that we would fix it, pay for it, but the city would keep up the maintenance.
I don't see that we would do that.
Because we'll be in the same spot 5-10 years from now. We'll be right back in this position again, exact same spot.
Right.
And
and I don't want to speak for Chris. This is certainly his area, but I believe he brought this issue to the commission a year or 2 ago and asked the commission
all of them. Yeah.
Commission approval to start abandoning these fountains. In that the city does no longer want to maintain these things, even if they were privately repaired or privately replaced.
They have to be still privately maintained.
It would then be privately maintained long term. I'd have to go back and check the records and certainly get a hold of Chris here and see what was done, what was the action, what was the intent.
And the last thing that I have is just a quick question. If you guys see here, I don't know if I can zoom it in or not. The Burlington addition, it's the street goes in, it just goes around. So unless you live there, there's really no reason to go in. I think the issue was, who will be responsible for paying it? Just the people on the pond, or the people across the street too that don't directly benefit to it? Wayne Valley owns, most of those empty lots, so every time they sell, they advertise it, they include the park, the basketball courts, the pond and everything. So the cost will definitely go down if the entire neighborhood will be assessed for it, because it's a Burlington addition. That's what it is, that whole neighborhood.
You have is there a public entrance to this? Where's that at? On the, can you show us where the public?
This is my house.
Yep, okay. Okay, so and there's kind of the public entrance where you're pointing, who's ever. Okay. So my second question is, when you purchased your home, don't you folks have a covenant? Did you not have a covenant?
Unfortunately, what happened, I think the original developer that was approved by the city foreclosed, went bankrupt. The second developer bought it, he went bankrupt too. So a lot of these lots, they were purchased by, I believe, either Jordan or Wayne Valley, and that's how we got it. But there's no covenants.
Shouldn't this information be in your covenants though, that talks about all this?
We do, but I think the original developer that was designed, so I don't know if the covenants are even now. And Mike can speak to his original. He's the first one that bought it there, so maybe he knows more about it than I do. Because I don't have.
John, that's something we should probably be looking at too, is our covenants before we do too much of anything here to make to see what's in there.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I don't think the city, when this development was done, that was quite a while ago. We've gotten more sophisticated in that when they want ponds, we require certain things to be put in their covenants. We require certain agreements in place. We have developers' agreements to cover. We could go back and look at what the covenants about this particular development say, and I'll work with Dustin on it. I would say when you're talking about forcing property owners across the street to pay for it, the only way that you could force them to do that is through a special assessment. So you can't have it both ways. You can't not have the city incur some costs for the special assessment from the engineer and some legal work and some administrative side, and collect from the other side. So if the homeowners are going to pay for it voluntarily, then it's voluntary. I mean, you can't force people to do it. It's either one or the other.
Right. And then if you do an assessment, when you start involving those homeowners across the street, they have a great opportunity to deny it. And then you get nothing done, just so you know that.
But I think we were told 50%, even if you go on a lake, or if you go in entire neighborhoods, it's 50%, 51%, I suppose it would have to be. At this point, I think we have just about every house on the pond they want to pay. I think the letter went out, 2 years ago, and most people didn't send it back. And it was voted as a no to fix this one. And because of that vote, or the letter's not going out, the fountain was not fixed. Because the letter did come out with the price. They talked about $8,000 to fix what's existing now, or $75,000 to put a permanent fountain in a place like the one that's in Charleston. So at even at $8,000, I think most people are like, it's $8,000 for that, or $75,000 for that matter. But I think if you do it down just the pond, just the lots in the pond, it's about $200 a piece. If you go to everybody, it's going to be a lot less than that. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't including the park district.
Okay. Well, you can work with Dustin, and we'll see where it takes us.
Okay. So you guys will get in contact with us. I think Chris and those guys have my email. We kind of went back and forth. So if possible, then we'll collect some quotes and see what people said, then we can just sit down and then see where we go from here. And the last question, is there any way that we can keep the water higher now?
We need to get the fish cleaned up first. That's nasty.
Yeah, in terms of keeping the water higher, it's a matter of once it fills up through rain events, it gets pumped down to its intended level. If we go through a period of drought or a dry spell, evaporation takes over and starts to lower the level of that water. That's where we don't artificially fill those ponds with potable water. Okay. So we have to wait for the rain to come back. And to answer your question, can we change the settings to allow for more water to be in there? The answer is no, because we have that at a certain level to have enough storage volume available in the event we get a large enough rain event.
Right, and the water can go up, I think it was 50 plus feet, it goes all the way up because it's kind of sloped. So the water would go up all the way in our yard, so we're fine with that, that's fine. But I think at this point, if you look on the north side, in the middle, that's where the drains are, and you can actually, those drains are exposed. When you go there in summer, to topple them or just buggy in, they're exposed because it's just too low.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you much.
Next item, approve a liquor license for Awake LLC at 1410 9th Street East, Suite 501. Tina.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. You have in your packet the results of the police background check for Awake LLC. And also included in there is the letter from the police staff that did the review, saying that they recommend approval. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have in relation to this license.
I guess I don't recall seeing that the police didn't recommend approval. They just gave us the information, didn't they?
Oh, okay. Well, I did have the letter that they had forwarded to me. Let me see. Where is that packet on my desk? Let me see. It is.
They usually don't state an opinion one way or the other. They just provide the
Not
information.
usually, but that's.
He seems to have a lot of history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within a short period.
And she's, guessing not here.
I do not know. I don't believe so. No.
Is this the former karaoke bar? Is that the location?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts, Chief?
The background had to be doing a lot with being victimized. What were a lot of the things that hit on there. I believe it, during her interview said she's been a waitress before, and that's her knowledge of the bar industry. So there was nothing, even though it's lengthy, that would really preclude from our standpoint of allowing it. So that is where we were on it with everything that's been looked into. The financing, everything was intact, insurance, everything on our checklist. So that's where we were at the end of the day.
Any other questions?
I'm thinking you'll be spending some time over there.
Yeah, I would agree. I would personally like to delay.
Well, there's civil judgment against her, and there's been, like I said, there's been police action where she's the victim, but there's also where she's involved in a disorderly conduct.
Right.
And the little bit of research I did, and again, it sounds like she wants to be the owner-operator. Is her experience must have been from a number of years ago. At least her LinkedIn profile says she's worked 7 years in the banking industry as a personal banker. So that must have been a long time ago, and she's a fairly young woman, so it must have been when she was a lot younger, unless she does it on the side. But I guess I personally don't think that's good experience for operating a liquor establishment.
I'm not saying no, but I would like to table this for a couple of weeks just to do a little more research on it.
Like what research?
Well, just to make sure that I guess we all have it right.
Well, I mean, we got all the information that we're ever going to get, Mark.
I say personally, I'm not comfortable with it. I think there's been a lot of action. She's been on both sides of being a victim and being in charge within just the last 2 years and 2 to 3 years. And personally, I wouldn't be comfortable with it. But Commissioner Simmons, you can certainly make whatever motion you feel comfortable with.
No, I'm agreeing with you, but yet I'm just saying, I don't know how far as a commission we need to go into personal lives and can determine who can and cannot have a bar and reason, but I'm saying I would not vote yes for this tonight. But I'm just saying, I don't know, I guess whatever you guys wanna do is fine with me either way. I was just thinking we could table it but if you're saying, Dwayne, we can't get any, is this all the information we can get anyway?
And that is everything from the background. So, as far as opining whether this will be a successful venture or not, I don't deem that to be part of the police department. She wants to be owner-operator, and with very little experience, we just provide what is in her actual background and whether the checklist is there.
I'm referring to like that judgment, I mean,
I always find it interesting when somebody wants to start a business, and yet they don't bother to take the time to show up.
Well, yeah, exactly.
We can ask them a question. I just don't get that, which tells me a little bit about how this person runs her personal life. She's probably going to run her business life the same way. Not that I can be judgmental about it or should be, but it's like...
So what are your wishes? Do I hear a motion to approve or deny or table?
Make the motion to deny.
Second. Moved in second to motion to deny. Any further discussion? If not, all those...
I'm sorry, sir. Can I jump in? Question, John, is there any, and I'm okay with that, Mark and Mike, so I'll support that, but is there any concerns that we have with denying this that we have to worry about?
No, I'm familiar with the file, and I don't have any concerns with you denying it. This is, sometimes there are close calls, and sometimes, it's sort of an art, and I feel very comfortable that we could defend this denial.
Okay.
Well, and I'd like to point out, in our ordinance, it states some specifics like felonies, prostitution, obscenity, but it also says any other offense determined by the Board of the City Commissioners to have a direct bearing on the applicant or manager's ability to serve the public as alcoholic beverage retailer, and at the very minimum, she hasn't had experience in this and doesn't have a background or the training, so I feel comfortable that we're following the guidelines that have been presented to us.
Sure. Any other questions or comments? If not, again, this is a vote to deny. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 11, property tax caps. A couple of weeks ago, I've asked Nick to be here tonight. A couple of weeks ago, there was a letter to the editor from a legislator that said the city, in this case, the city of Fargo, should put on property tax caps when it comes to evaluations. And I have asked Nick here to respond to that, just so that our citizens have the straight story of that we probably can't do that.
Right, yep. Mayor and Commissioner, I'm Nick Lee, the city assessor, as you know. But as far as our job, we're trying to get true and full value. And besides the fact that the guidelines, specifically from the state tax department, say that market value is to equal true and full value, each year we are to do a sales ratio, and basically when a house sells, our true and full value is measured against the sale price to come at a ratio. And each year the State Board of Equalization mandates a tolerance for a median ratio. It's about 2009, it's been 90 to 100%. Before that it was typically 95 to 105%, but then there was some legislation about not having it be over, so they dropped it to 90 to 100%. So basically each year we have the sales ratio that's performed by the supervisor of assessments, and that's in Century Code 570201 to ensure we're in compliance with that 90 to 100%. If we are out of compliance, low, they will move us up to 93%. If we're over, they'll move us down to 100%. And additionally, if we are totally out of compliance, North Dakota Century Code 571304 gives the State Board of Assessments the ability to order a complete new assessment and charge it to us to put us in compliance if they think that we're just totally out of whack. So, yeah, we're given real thin guidelines on how to, put values on properties.
And Nick, this is coming from the state, right?
Right.
So, I guess I'm a little confused. Don't you think that legislature would know that?
Well, I think he should have. It just seemed a little odd to me when I read it,
I know you hear about that because I watch the news and you see it, you know, like nationally too, everybody's having the same problem. Are there other states that have caps like this that
In
that
some
work?
form, there's 19 states that have, you know, whether it's value, whether it's taxable value, whether it's just taxes incurred. In 2017 in the Senate, there was a cap on property tax increases of like 3% a year or something like that, that failed. So, I mean, it is something that's been kicked around the legislature.
But that is something that, again, would have to come from the state,
Right.
not the city, right?
Right,
We
yeah.
have no say?
There's just nothing in here that gives us the ability
We
to
can
have
just
any
do it.
play. Yeah, there's, right.
And that was my point that I wanted to bring out, is that there's nothing we can do, so. Thanks for, any other questions? Thanks, Nick.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next we'll go with, the discussion on a temporary, bond for Sheyenne Street. Discussion. Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Commission. The reason I wanted to have this on the agenda was to get some consensus if the Commission wanted to proceed. As you know, we've awarded contracts for the 3 phases of construction within Sheyenne. The Sheyenne Street project consisting of 2250 and 2244 improvement districts. It's quite a large amount of construction. The city's share is right around $30 to $40 million after the state contribution and the other contributions to the construction effort. And the project will take approximately 2 years to complete. And as a result, the city has to fund its share over the 2 years before we can assess it out. And that can present some challenges for the city budgeting because that's a significant sum of money. It's not like in addition to our normal ongoing projects. And so the discussion that we had as staff was, are there options for the city to temporarily fund that, much like a homeowner would go out and get a construction loan. The city has a legal ability to issue a temporary refunding improvement bond. I took some initiative and did some initial checking with Mike from Doherty. The interest rate is running anywhere from 1.75% interest to right around 2.3%. There is virtually no difference between a 2-year temporary issue and a 3-year temporary issue. I also reached out to Doherty to see if there was any other way that we could further reduce the cost. They felt that they could get the underwriting fee because it's a short-term rate down to 0.8%, which it's normally 1 to 1.5%. That would be an additional savings. It would help the city to cash flow the improvement. The city would not have to make any principal payments during those 2 years. It would be interest only. And then in 2 years or 3 years when the project's done, we would just refund that with a permanent bond. And so it would enable the city to have better cash flow. It's just due to the size of the project, it's something that we thought was appropriate, but given the amount of money we're talking about, I was not comfortable, and I don't think Tina was comfortable without getting the commission go ahead to look at this more fully and bring back a proposal to the commission with Doherty on temporarily financing it. So I can ask any questions you might have, but that's kind of what we're thinking. It would be about $40 to $44 million of temporary financing.
So what you're asking is, we'll have this discussion, and if we give you the go-ahead, you'll bring back a proposal next meeting.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be next meeting. It'll probably take about 60 days, but we basically want, if this is something you're interested in doing, let us know and we will get it done. Ultimately, the commission would have to approve the sale, so you'd actually have real results. But we wanted to know if this was something that we should be exploring or if we should try to figure out how to pay for it with funds on hand. And Tina's looking kind of nervous, so not sure.
I think it's a good idea.
For sure.
I think you should move forward.
Okay.
Do you want a motion on that?
Yeah, I think we should probably, given the amount of money we're dealing with.
I'll make that motion.
To come back with a proposal?
Yes.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Tina?
Good evening again, Mayor and Commissioners. I sent before each one of you a listing of some of the upcoming events, just because there's so many that I didn't expect you to be able to write them all down. But starting tomorrow, we have a ribbon cutting and re-grand opening for Homewood Suites and Conference Center at 4 o'clock. And then the newly set planning and zoning meetings that will be the second Tuesday of every month at 5:30 will also be tomorrow night. The school transportation department, meaning the bus barn, is having an open house at 11. And then on the 9th, the 10th, Hornbacher's groundbreaking at 11. And that evening, there's a retirement party at the West Fargo schools for, I believe, Dr. Flowers. Then we move into the 15th, and we're starting to set up our meetings for West Fargo Events Committee, finalize some bylaws, get some information together on fees and costs so that we can bring that back to you as a commission as a whole. And Melissa's in charge of that, and the committee's set up of various members of you guys and other entities, so they'll keep you in the loop as that moves forward. On the 16th, we have the ribbon cutting and open house for Sheyenne Plaza on Fitwitchell and Moore Engineering. And then on the 17th, we have, he's set this up, so if you have more questions, he can answer this better than me, but he set up leadership training with Tyler Rowe. He is with the NDSU football team. Sorry, I don't know NDSU football. But, sorry, but he's going to come and provide leadership training. He set it up for the police department, but he also invited other staff if we were interested to come and take part and learn what it is that how it is that they inspire their team to be the winning team that it is. And so it'd be a really good team building thing for the staff.
What time is that?
That starts at 3 p.m. Okay. I didn't have that. On the 18th, we'll have Arbor Day right in the foyer at 1 o'clock. And then on the 19th, if you like the Budweiser Clydesdales, they will be in town at around 1:30 and should be downtown by the VFW by about 3 o'clock. And they'll only be there for about an hour and then they'll be gone. Mark your calendars. The 22nd is the first candidate forum at City Hall at 5 o'clock from the League of Women Voters. I don't have all the details on it. Courtney's working on it. So I imagine invitations will be going out from them to the different candidates for the different forums that they'll be having as they've done in the past. I emailed all of you the construction progress report that Matt Welly sent out. It's a very busy report. I wanted to let you know that budget meetings will be starting here in the next few weeks. Right now it's more working on trying to find out what people want for staffing requests, what our changes are going to be, and start plugging through the general fund and see where we're at and what we need. I do intend also to bring forward along with the preliminary budget a policy on, okay, if I can get my words right, a policy on funding and how much we want to keep in our reserves for emergency needs and future needs, so that we have a set policy that you would approve that says we keep 90 days reserves or 60 or a year, whatever, and so that we have a policy for how much money we hold in the general fund and why we hold it and what it can be used for. So that will be coming with as well. Jenna talked to the company, MRA, that's going to be doing the compensation study, and she's going to send out a timeline when they get it back to her. But she's been plugging through quite a few of the job descriptions, and she will have those all sent to them before the end of May. They'll start classifying and creating the pay plans and the different positions, and we're hoping to have something back by the end of summer. That's kind of tentative, but as we know more, we'll send it out to you. And the only other thing I was going to mention was I've been working with John Shockley to create an onboarding binder for elected officials. It will include information on all the different city departments, how things work for people that really don't know, like taxation and what does Public Works do, and all the different things, just so they can have information. And that will also be available to those that aren't new. but we'll also schedule meetings, and once we get this process down with newly elected people and anyone else that's still on here or re-elected that wants to sit through and go through the whole binder and talk through and ask questions. So that's something that will be really nice going forward. And is that, the only other question I have is, did you ever give any more thought to whether or not you wanted to have your meetings be live? We have the ability to, and I know I'd asked you to think about it. I would just need to know if and when you would want to do that.
I don't see why we wouldn't.
From our perspective, I don't think it matters to us. It's what the public would like, if they like to view it live or if they do it at their convenience.
Will they be able to still do both?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yep.
I think it's fine then. I think we should do it.
Okay. All right. We'll move forward with that. It's ready to go. So I also gave you guys a budget outline of activities. We wanted to kind of get some policies in place for the budget. I've given you copies of this before. This one's revised. If you would please look through it. The dates are kind of fluid. They're not set in stone. It's more the concept of it to see if you're okay with it or if you have any changes you'd like to have made. So other than that, we're just keep plugging along.
What about this, Tina, this contract?
Oh, that's a draft of the master service agreement. Sorry, John Shockley and I have been working with More Engineering on that agreement to try and get us to that place where we have a revised agreement. We're wanting to move to more of a task order based agreement, and that would set the stage for that.
So once you do that, does that come back to the commission for approval?
Yes. Yep. And this is just a rough draft for you guys to review. If you have questions, let Dustin, John, myself know, and we will work through all those. And I'll be bringing you more information as we progress forward, and so will John.
And maybe just a brief overview. The idea is to have a master service agreement in place with More Engineering. And it really covers three major groups. The first is general engineering services, what you would have a city engineer, those types of tasks performing. The second bucket is building inspections. As you know, More Engineering performs the building inspections. And the third is project-based. So we're trying to have an agreement in place that really sets forth the procedures for authorizing More Engineering to perform work, the charges, and then the billing that's associated with that. And the agreement also will specify the rates, lock the rates in for the next 5 years, so there's certainty for the city, and also provide insurance coverage. And we also tried to, in the agreement, set forth the procedure for how does work get authorized, who can direct the engineer to perform work. And at this point, it was really that decision rests with Chris and Tina, but that is subject to, and the commission, that's subject to kind of some discussion, and we're still working through those because we want to, Tina wants to make sure that not, you just can't have somebody who's just needs something from engineering, call the More Engineering and have them perform work, and then the invoice shows up. And so we're trying to standardize that procedure.
I hope we don't have that happening now.
It has happened at times in the past because maybe someone, it's just we've gotten so comfortable over all these years of having More Engineering, so the public works guys will call somebody up and say, I need this done. Somebody else will call up and say, well, we really would like to have this done.
I see what you're saying.
So now we want to move into, so every...
the citizens, a regular citizen was calling
no,
up.
No.
I'm hoping that's not happening.
No.
I understand though, with our side of things.
Any other questions?
Do we have the same kind of agreement with Onstead Twitchell?
Right now, we just have a retainer agreement. After the election, we get reappointed. We'll just have the same retainer agreement then. And it's a little different with legal services.
Understand.
The scope, but yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Next, we'll go into executive session pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 44-04-19.2 and North Dakota Century Code 44-04-19.1,
Subdivision 9, for the purpose of receiving an update from the city attorney and providing negotiating instructions to the city attorney regarding modifications, amendments, and/or potential claims regarding a potential claim against KPH Inc.'s bid bond for improvement project number 1310. So we'll meet right next door.
And we will need a motion in a second and a vote on the executive session.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
Make that motion.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We'll meet right next door. And once we're completed, we will come back here and announce if there was a vote or not.
Good job up there,
flash drive. I've never seen one before. I didn't believe before the hour worked.
conversation. No more than 10 days.
Yeah, that's why I was curiosity, because I guess we're out on the phone, and I'm like, wow. Wow. And then,
Maybe
it was
the
followed up
ordinance is gonna
by
be
the
that.
commissioner saying, there wasn't a recommendation in that packet. No, there's only 3 times the police officer recommended.
Oh, Richard, oh, really? I
Yes.
Oh,
In
in
the letter.
that, oh, yeah.
Yes. But then, never mind.
What was the deal with that? Did you read it yet, no?
Yeah.
The application, what was their? I see, she has a lot of, she filed restraining orders against people, she's been arrested, I think.
She's been involved in a lot of domestic
Yeah.
cases. She's been victimized.
So, all that, she was bad. Like, she got beat people up, she beat them, and that's grounds for not getting a warrant.
And she has, yeah, and she has one disorderly conduct.
And that she's only been a waitress. Well, that was a stupid comment. I would have taken it for one. So was, you think everything in for a while, 100%?
So what happened here tonight is 7 all male, wait, 5 all male commissioners did read the packet completely and decided that someone who has only been a waitress
Is not good enough.
and has been a victim of domestic violence should not receive a liquor license and start a system. Although the police that investigated it recommended approval, staff administrator recommended approval.
That's crazy, I have personally not read any part of that agenda.
Yeah, I looked through the whole thing because I was going to do something short on it, and I thought that they would approve it, yeah.
I never paid attention. Yeah, I never paid attention to them because they always get approved. Like, whenever I see a liquor license, although it's technically business and I should be all over it, I never read them because it's like, they never ask my opinion as they should. And then 2, I've never seen them actually deny one before. They even approved the Rainforest Cafe guy one. And approved it, but then gave all sorts of warnings, like, now. And then they ended up removing it. So I always just assume they're always approved until they. Who made the motion to deny it? Was it Forsyth? Yeah. Well, then he kind of copped out too. Yeah. Unless he didn't write it, I suppose. He didn't write it. No, if he's not. He doesn't write it. Crump writes it. Yeah. They, for renewal, I think they're on like a quarterly check, and as long as they pass the quarterly check, there's no, maybe you should have, yeah.
Okay, we will reconvene as a city commission at 7:04 on the May 7th. After some discussion, John, you want to take it over from here?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We would need a motion from the commission to approve in substantially the same form presented tonight with the additional negotiation instructions to the city attorney given at the executive session, a supplier substitution agreement between the city of West Fargo and KPH. I'll bring back the final form of the agreement when it's reached, but tonight we're just looking for the approval that you're okay with it in substantially the form that we discussed in executive session, plus the additional negotiating directions that you gave me in executive session.
Any questions, John? If not, do I hear a motion to proceed?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Any non-agenda items? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.
We've reached a tentative agreement with KPH regarding allowing them to substitute in a supplier. And they gave me further negotiating instructions to go back and finalize the agreement with them and then bring the agreement back for final It requires consent from the city commission. They have to consent to it, and then they agreed in substance to it, so we still have to work out some of the details. It's really kind of a technical issue. Fun stuff for attorneys. And the agreement will have a final copy of it available at the next meeting. Let me see, I may have to head over to another meeting.
part of the equation. Yeah, but he wasn't in on the final stuff, you know, all the short. Yeah, when you brought that up, like you did, I'd love to say something like that, no, because that's just gonna, you know, agitate it more, you know, be aggressive, let it go, you know, and, you know, honestly, you made a good point, let's just move forward. What's happening, all that, like I said, too, let's just move forward, get through this, get this done, you guys. There's no way they're gonna be there by the grand opening, unfortunately, because they're not gonna be able to agree, I don't think, unless they get something. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'll go over. I was gonna ask,